Hey, what's going on, everybody? David Noe with SpeakEasy HR, presented by Payroll Partners. I am back with a brand new episode to start off February. January went so fast, I don't know where it went, but here we are, episode 60 of SpeakEasy HR. And I'm thrilled to have somebody that I've been following in my HR career for quite some time. And that is Ben Eubanks. Ben, welcome to SpeakEasy HR. How are you today?
David, glad to be here. Looking forward to a fun conversation, diving into some good topics that we're both excited about and hopefully shedding some light on things for the audience too. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I get such a wide variety of topics, and when I talk to people, I kind of ask, what's going on in your world? What are you passionate about? And every day there's themes in our workplace that kind of transpire out of this. So just thrilled to have you on. We're going to be playing a really fun envelope icebreaker game, which I think is world famous. That's in my mind. And we have some people watching live, so thanks for joining us. It is Groundhog Day. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for bringing that up. We have another 6 weeks of winter, so that's awesome. Everybody dealing with the weather. I feel like it's never going to end. So super happy to have Nicole on. So welcome, and it's Groundhog Day. So here we are. So Ben, I've been following you for quite some time, like I said, and you've been in HR, you've been doing podcast work. So people that don't know who you are and have heard about your story and what you do, kind of tell us kind of what you've been up to and what's led you to this point in your career.
Yeah, absolutely. So strangely, I wanted to be in HR when I was a kid, even before I knew what it was called. I know that's not a common sort of calling for people, but the funny version of that is I'm the older middle of 4 boys. So I didn't have the position authority of being the oldest. So it was always like brokering a deal, brokering a truce, trying to get people to agree to things, which is a big part of what HR does every day. The reality is when I started working for companies when I was in like high school, college, just the menial jobs and stuff, all of them had trouble hiring the right people, keeping them happy, making sure their pay was right, all those things. I was like, none of them could figure it out. And none of those companies, I never heard of HR at that point. So I was like, I'll go figure whatever that is out. And then I'll probably always have a job because these companies struggle with it. And I got to college and someone said, hey, write a paper on this thing called human resources. I'm like, oh, that sounds boring. But I started researching and looking into like, wait a minute, no, this is exactly all the things I've wanted to do. And so I changed my major right there, got my degree in HR. And then that was, about 20 years ago now. So I worked as an HR leader myself. I loved it. The only thing I love more is writing, speaking, and sharing about that with all of our friends like Nicole and others that are out there that have followed that for a time. So I use things like books, HR Summer School, our big events, the other research and things that I do day to day. So this year makes 10 years of working as a researcher, trying to understand what's changing at work, what's changing for the workforce, and then bringing forward insights in as practical and real and helpful a way as I can. Like, I don't need any like generic stuff. I need someone to tell me what to do. And I want to use those things to help all our friends in HR. So that's what I do day to day broadly. And it's so much fun for me because there's always something new, always something that I'm curious about. You probably, David, have been like going through work one day, like, I wonder what the answer is to that question. And then like most people, you just kind of forget it because you have stuff to do. Yep. And I have the chance to answer those questions. So for me, that's the best part of my job.
Yeah. Well, cheers to you wanting to do HR since you were a kid. So I've got my mini air horn here. So you're getting a lot of that. Because you're the second guest out of 60 that have told me they wanted to do HR when they were little. And it's because the other guest, her parents or her mom were part of HR in their company. Okay. So she, instead of playing with dolls, she would play and act like she's firing people and doing all this.
Terminate Barbie. That's
terminated. Yeah. So that was part of her upbringing was around HR. So, well, thanks for sharing all that. And so your work, podcasting, you and I are on a similar platform with Work Defined, workdefined.com. So your podcast, We're Only Human. How long have you been doing that podcast?
This makes 10 years for that as well. So it's been a big anniversary this year.
Man, 2026 is going to be a big year for you.
Yes.
Very cool. And so, so what I always ask people that have been in podcasting, obviously way longer than me, what did you go into doing podcasting for? And what have you gotten out of it up to this point?
So I was cheating. That's what I was doing. So, as a researcher, it's my job to know what's going on, to understand the biggest trends, things like that. And occasionally I have a conversation like you and I actually had our very first time we talked. And it's a great, fruitful discussion. We're learning interesting things. We're sharing, here's what I'm seeing in the market. And then that conversation just gets filed away and it never appears again. And I thought, it is not fair that some people out there would benefit so much from these conversations and they're just happening off on the side like this. And so I started the podcast with the hope of bringing some of those in. And again, as part of my work as a researcher, I have to know and keep tabs on what's happening, what's changing, what's new. And so that's why I was like cheating a little bit, because this is work, but it's also, as you probably know, anybody that's ever done it on that side of the mic, it's so much fun to have a chance to just grill people, ask them questions, and they're always willing to say yes. So for me, that's been the biggest part of it, the best part of it. And that's why I started in the first place.
Yeah. Well, you answered a few other questions I had, so I'm going to get to the ones that you haven't answered yet.
Okay.
And then we'll get into your topic, which I know probably people may or may not think about every day right now, probably more so every day with AI and how it won't fix people problems. So we're going to get into that in a little bit. So what's the biggest piece of advice you've ever received in your career?
Goodness, I've received so much support and feedback. One of the things I'm excited about this year, she doesn't know it yet, but I'm actually going to surprise my mentor and invite her onto HR Summer School this year, this big event we do virtually, because she is the person that helped me shape my perspective of what great HR is. Okay. So probably the best piece of feedback that I got is, you will always have something you're letting go of if you want to hold on to something new. For me, that came in the fact I started it with this one organization, best leadership, best culture, everything else. And I started this job, worked as an HR specialist, this generalist sort of role. And I loved everything I got to do. I mean, the first day on the job, like, hey, you're going to start doing some recruiting. Great. Please give me an accountant, an admin, something I understand. Like, no. Here's a requisition for a Black Hawk helicopter instructor pilot. Good luck. Let us know when you got some candidates ready to talk to. Oh, okay. So I loved the things I was doing. I was learning so much, but at the same time, as more things to add to my plate, I started to feel overcrowded, like any of us would. And I told my boss, she said, yeah, you have to pick something to let go of. But they're all my favorite children. How do I do that? How do I let something go? She said, that's the hard part of progressing your career. You have to let something else go so you can do something new. And so I had to start carving out pieces of that. And thankfully, I worked in a place where it wasn't just put on a third layer on your plate and just suck it up and go. She was really trying to help me do that. But that was one of the big things I had to learn early on, is you can't hold anything too tightly, because then you end up missing an opportunity to grow, missing an opportunity to develop a skill or to build a relationship that will be valuable long-term.
Love that. I always am fascinated what people say in that question. I've started to ask people recently, and every single person has a different perspective of advice and having mentors in their life. So that's exciting that you're going to be doing that with the with your mentor. So for those of you who are new to SpeakEasy HR, and maybe this is the first time you've watched, because of the awesome guest I have today, I have a lot of content out at SpeakEasyHR.com, blogs, past guests. Now I'm having past guests contribute to the blog. I had 3 in January. I started a newsletter on LinkedIn, Top Shelf Insider. So if you have obviously some insights in HR and workforce, I'm trying to do a monthly newsletter and trying to bring everything together. So a lot happened in January. So take a look at the newsletter out there, Top Shelf Insider with LinkedIn. So Ben, before we get into your topic about AI and fixing people problems, we're going to play this, what I call the world famous envelope icebreaker game. And it's been going on since I started this. So there's 15 envelopes. So think of a number 1 through 15 as I transition, and we'll see what you pick. All right. So 1 through 15, what do you got?
Number 14 was my number when I was on all kinds of sports teams as a kid. So go number 14.
Okay. Number 14. Were you like a quarterback, or were you?
Goodness gracious. Like, keep him away from the ball. That was my position. Whatever I had to touch it at the least. That's why I'm a runner now. I'm just not coordinated enough for the other stuff.
There you go. All right. Number 14 for Ben. Okay. What's the one thing you can't live without on a work day?
Oh, on a work day. I mean, caffeine's the short answer, I think, to that one.
Yeah.
Honestly, about 4 days a week. So not every work day, but 4 days a week, I have ice cream. And that is one of my go-to things that my family knows me. I have a corner of the kitchen where I stand where the kids can't quite see what I'm doing. And that's my ice cream sneaking corner. So that's my go-to for a lot of things.
Okay.
After I have like a great webinar or something else, you can find me in the kitchen celebrating with some ice cream.
So what's your favorite?
Oh my goodness. So anything with cookies in it is a winner.
Okay.
Bluebell ice cream has a cookie two-step with Oreos and cookie dough in it. That is my big thing. So during the pandemic, their factory shut down. They were producing no ice cream. And my wife took it upon herself to learn how to make homemade ice cream and made a homemade cookie dough, had Oreos in it and everything that she had made for me just to keep me sane during those times. And it was a very welcome gift from her. So I've loved that for a long time, and it's still my go-to.
Oh, wow. That sounds really good.
Yeah.
All right.
Everyone's hungry now listening in.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Ice cream is, Nicole, ice cream is always a good idea. Yeah. I buy ice cream that no one in my family likes, and so I'll eat it and I won't have to worry.
There you go.
I'm near Cincinnati, right? So I'm near Cincinnati, and we have Graders.
Oh yes.
And Skyline chili, there's an ice cream that tastes like Skyline chili. If you've ever had Skyline chili.
Oh.
And it's got little crackers in it, oyster crackers. I'm telling you, it's like spicy pumpkin. If anyone has not had Skyline chili, you should at some point try it. It took me about a year to actually like it. And now Skyline and Graders formed. Now I will say that's not my favorite at Graders, because now they have a bourbon ball. And as you see in the background, I like bourbon. Their bourbon ball is unbelievable. And it's with New Riff bourbon from New Riff, which is local. And oh my gosh, that one is by far the best that they have. So
the bourbon, really quick bourbon story for you before we get into some other fun stuff.
Yeah, go.
I don't drink. Lots of friends and family that do, but it's just never have. But I have spent time at most of the major distilleries in Kentucky because I've run the Bourbon Chase 200-mile relay before. And so all of the big relay transition points for the team, are at Wild Turkey, Maker's Mark, all the big places. And so you're running along, you're like, uh-oh, I'm getting close. Like I can smell it from a couple miles out, how close the next transition point is. So that's when I hear bourbon, it's the first thing I think of.
It's beautiful country, I'll tell you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
A lot of countryside, a lot of big rick houses full of bourbon. So, well, appreciate you sharing a little bit of insight. And now we all know that you definitely like ice cream, and I'm sure you have that at your summer school, right? You give away ice cream.
You know what? I need to figure that one out. I had a PR company. You probably get all the PR pitches like I do. I got a PR company that reached out recently that said, hey, we have this ice cream thing. We'll find a way to partner. I'm like, listen, you don't know this, but this is my dream. This is my secret dream, like come true. Yes, I will find any way to make this work because it's like an ice cream gifting thing for employees. And let's make this happen. So
there you go. So if any ice cream company out there is listening, Ben has an option for you to be involved in HR more, because everybody loves HR. So, all right. Well, a couple of messages from our presenting sponsor, Payroll Partners, and then we're going to dive into it here with Ben. So hold on 1 minute here.
Finding a new employee takes time and money. For one position on a single job board, you could easily spend a minimum of $5 to $10 a day advertising a job post. It's worth noting that the average time it takes to hire a new employee is 36 days. However, it can take longer than that. You could find yourself paying hundreds of dollars a month for a single job board. And if you're using multiple job boards for multiple positions, this could add up to thousands of dollars a month. There is a much simpler and more affordable way of finding the right candidate. At Payroll Partners, we offer an applicant tracking system to help manage your hiring process. Our ATS is customizable, allowing you to decide which days you want to run the job and when to close it so you don't break the bank. And this feature lets you e-blast your network, posting jobs on multiple boards at once, all managed in one location. Payroll Partners, elevating your payroll and HR experience.
So if you are in the market of new technology out there. There's a lot. I've used a lot. And I think it comes down to who you work with and having people behind your technology. And that's what we offer. So if you are interested in hearing more about what we do for businesses, all shapes and sizes all over the country, look us up. Look me up on LinkedIn, payrollpartners.net. So, top shelf topic with Ben, why AI won't fix your people problems. And when you brought this to me, I was so excited. We've had a few people talk AI. We're going to have more in the future, but when it all comes down to it, this is such a fun topic to get into, and everybody seems to be talking AI for a variety of reasons. And so, when leaders say AI will fix this, what people problem are they usually trying to avoid?
When company leaders say AI is just going to take care of this thing, they are forgetting the fact that AI is not like a light switch. You can't just turn it on and all is bright and nice and warm and fuzzy. It's fundamentally, it's a people change. It is a people problem. When I say we're going to use a tool that's going to change the work being done, the tasks that are being handled, how the interactions go, all those things, that's not a light switch. That's like cranking it up degree by degree and more like a thermostat than anything. One of the ways that I try to explain this just to a company the other day, because I say, hey, we're going to get this, everything's going great. We're going to add this in and just like supercharge stuff was kind of the phrase they used. Like I said, I think about the times when I was helping managers hire in the past. And maybe they had a team of, say, 3 people. And those 3 people got along well, good dynamics. And they said, hey, everything's great. I just want to add one more person in, but leave everything else the same. And I said, within a week, you'll see that's completely silly, because once a new person comes in, you'll have new relationships that form, new dynamics, like the people that got along before are now going to have friction and things that you don't expect. And it's the same thing with AI. It's adding things in there into the mix that's just going to mix other stuff up that you don't always foresee in the beginning. So when they're like, oh, don't worry, we'll just throw some AI on top of it, it'll be all good. Like, well, you're assuming that all processes are in a good place, all your data are already in a good place. And you and I both know that most companies are not in that fairy fantasy land right now when it comes to that.
Yeah, absolutely. The simplest of things that people should have in their organization, they still don't.
Yes.
SOPs and processes and documentation and training, and they don't have it. And they might say they do, and they think it's going to be taken care of with AI, but it's not.
Yes, for sure. It gets me because we're in this time right now where you see all these stories about how cool AI is, or this neat stuff that it's doing. Or I saw a data point the other day that made me so concerned, where you see people are using AI as a therapist and a confidant, and thinking the people that work around us, the data we have, the research we've collected, if I'm working alongside you, unfortunately, David, I don't trust you very much. I don't know if you're very adaptable to change. I don't know that I can trust you to handle the thing, right? Go back to the sports analogy. I don't know that I can give you the ball because I don't know if I trust you to make the right call.
Right.
And in that environment, we are seeing people that are distancing themselves from each other, and they're drawing nearer to this technology that's not a real person. It tells you you're always right. It says that's a good idea, even when it's not. And it's creating this very negative set of outcomes that we can't see yet. That's the part that worries me the most, is we can't even see all the negative being created, but it's going to become glaringly obvious at some point.
Yeah. So where does AI genuinely add value to people at work, and where does it quietly fall short?
The big win there is personalization. When I worked as an HR leader, I would have loved to have had enough time to really craft how I interacted, how I sent messages, how I engaged with everyone. Or on the flip side, I would have loved to have known enough about people to be able to connect with them on a deeper level. When we were a smaller company, I knew everybody's name, their spouse's name, their kids' names. I knew if they were on our insurance or not. I knew like the big things in their life. And so when I talked to them, I could say, hey, how's it? I know your kid was getting braces. How'd that go? Like I knew all those little things. And to me, that was a basis of trust. So if I had to ask that person for something hard, they knew that I cared already before it came to that hard thing. Yeah. As we got bigger, it got more difficult to do that. And what was your name again? Like I would meet people that I should know and I don't know. Yeah. AI lets us know more things about people, lets us see things, lets us personalize how we interact with them and engage with them. And I think that is a really big win. And it excites me on so many levels, because that's what high touch, high value HR looks like. going back to the comment earlier, the mentor I had, that was one of the things she told me is I was always like to the point. And she's like, sprinkle a little bit of fluff and stuff on it. Like make it feel better, make people feel nice, because that's a part of what we do in our job. So, okay, I had to learn that skill.
Yeah.
But where does it fall short? The other half of your question, where does AI fall short? So there's a great book. I always reference it, and it's never on the shelf right here where I can reach it to show. It's a book called Range. And in the book Range, they talk about the power of a generalist in a world of very narrow specialists. And a lot of HR leaders, honestly, are generalists. And they talk in there about the type of work that can't be automated, can't be delegated, can't be handed off very easily. 3 key things. Number 1, if you want to delegate something or automate something, you have to know all the variables. Nothing's left to chance. There's no gray area. You know all the variables. And that's not true for the work HR does.
Yeah.
The second one, the parameters and guardrails are fixed and they're set and you know them. Like, well, no, not always. You know what the finish line is. No one ever says, oh, that thing we decided last week, we actually changed direction. We're going this other direction. That happens every single day. And the third big thing is a feedback loop. When you make a decision, you know immediately if it was right or wrong. I know I made decisions. Listen, David, 15 years ago, I made decisions as an HR leader. I still don't know what the outcome was. I still don't know if it worked out or not. And so because of those 3 things not being very clear, very accurate, it's really hard for AI to do those types of work, those types of tasks, and those types of things, especially within the HR function. We have so much gray area that you need a human in the mix. And so for those companies that are doing too much on the automation side, that's a worrisome place to be, because you're losing that human touch and connection. I go back to a story. I never talk about the pandemic, but twice now I have. So you started it with the ice cream thing. There was a story back then about a company, I won't call them out, that was using a lot of automation in their processes. Mm-hmm. They were taking care of a family member at home, or they had COVID themselves and they couldn't come to work. And they were getting fired repeatedly every day by the automated systems because they couldn't call a person and say, hey, I'm still out sick, or I'm still taking care of my kid, or whatever else. They just got fired every single day until they got a manager who's like, don't worry, I'll get them turned back on. Tomorrow they don't show up and they're fired automatically again. So that worries me, that we're headed towards that future if we're only using AI for those kinds of things and not for the personalization, the connection, the human piece of that I started off with.
Yeah. So how does trust get impacted when AI shows up before culture, clarity, and strong leadership? And I would add to that mentorship, because you had mentioned about your mentor, and I think trust goes into that so much. So how does that impact when AI shows up?
Let me give you a data point really quickly, and then I'll go to that part of it. So we did a piece of research with candidates looking for jobs. We're actually, that survey right now is live, the update version. But the last time we asked this question, we asked candidates about using AI to rate them during the hire process. Okay. So we gave them 3 choices. So they said, okay, you can pick this job that says AI is rating you during hire process. No big deal. We had the second one that said, we're using AI to rate you, but it's only looking at your skills, your experiences, things like that. The third one said, we're using AI to rate you, and it's not looking at your age, your gender, your ethnicity, those sorts of protected characteristics. And what we found is candidates most preferred that third one, the protective one, over the other explanatory ones, because they want to know instinctively. We have this fear, this worry that AI is going to do negative things. There's a piece of research, academic research, where they ran across this concept they called algorithmic aversion. Okay. Again, I'm wearing my nerd hat proudly today, flying it proudly, but algorithmic aversion means that we are worried about what AI recommends. So we are just biased towards AI recommendations in some cases. When AI shows up before culture, before clarity, everything else, there's mistrust, there's worry, there's concern, because our people are seeing the same headlines we are. They're reading all the scary, worrisome sorts of things. And in every single company I've ever worked for, every single role I've ever worked in, if we had leaders that did not communicate, our brains automatically assume the worst. We think, even in a social context, if I text you, David, like, hey man, how's it going? Hope you're having a great week. And you don't respond within an hour, I'm like, uh-oh, did I make David mad? What did I do? What's wrong? Like, you're just out for a workout. Like, it wasn't a big deal. Or, you're driving with a client. It's not a big deal. But in my head, I'm like, oh gosh, something bad's there. This AI piece is exactly the same. There was some data that came back from a big learning company last fall, and they said there's one thing companies can do that doubles your employees' interest in and uptake of AI. And it's nothing more than casting a vision and being clear about that. To the leadership part of your question, being clear about that and actually talking about what that means, even if it's, hey, we're not sure yet what this means for us, but we are looking at this and we're evaluating right now. We'll keep you in the loop as we make decisions. But most companies are like, let's decide behind closed doors, then we'll tell people, and they're assuming the very worst.
Jeez. So why do so many organizations lead with tools instead of people? And what does that cost them, do you think, moving forward?
Because tools feel doable, manageable. It feels easy to say, again, the light switch, turn it on. Like, it feels better for us to be able to do that because it feels like something you can grasp.
Yeah.
And anyone who's worked in this space for more than 10 seconds knows that people are variable, they're unpredictable, they're
Messy.
they're hard to quantify. So when companies like go towards the tool thing, I talked to an HR executive the other day, David. She said, my CEO came to me and told me I have to get some AI. That was the exact phrase. And she's like, I don't even know what that means. What do I say? I said, well, you go back to that leader and you say, what problem are we trying to solve?
Yeah.
What are we trying to get to? Because it may turn out that you don't need any AI at all. It may turn out that you need to test some of that out or check something out. You may need half a headcount on your team. You may need a great partner, right, to help you solve for this, but you don't necessarily need AI. They need to be very clear about what they're asking you for before you get there. When I've written about this in the Artificial Intelligence for HR book itself, that's one of the key things I talk about is don't get caught up in agents this or agents that. Don't get caught up in machine learning or whatever else. Don't get caught up in the terminology, the phrases, things like that. Get caught up in the business problem. Care about the issue, the problem, the challenge, because almost every person that's hearing my voice right now would say, hey, listen, we have a hard time finding the best and most suitable person for the job. Right? That's a really difficult thing for us. Or we are worried about losing some of our best performers either to the competition or just because it's hard for us to pay them appropriately or something. We're worried about losing our best people.
Right.
Well, the answer to that may have an AI piece to it, and it may not. But if you don't know, if you just go, we need AI for this or that. I've been making jokes for the last year probably about this, and I'll continue to, that there's not a person in the world that woke up today and said, man, you know what? I really need an agent. That's what I need. I need an agent today. No, they're like, hey, we have trouble with X, Y, or Z. We have trouble getting our payroll accurate. We have trouble with making sure our benefits are fair and connected to our employees and what they care about. Those things are real problems that we can latch onto, and what great HR people have been latching onto for a long time.
Yeah, I think anybody in an HR role can probably see where they can be more efficient using more technology. And I think, is it going to save time? Is it going to save money? Is it going to save resources? So there are companies that don't want to gravitate to that. We're in that boat. Like, we're hiring people. We're not hiring technology to do our job. So there are companies like that. And I have, and maybe you've seen more than I have with this, but doing interviews and having AI do interviews. And then it kind of spits back everything. So you don't schedule the interview with the applicant. You don't do the interview with the applicant. And then it tells you everything about that applicant you want to know.
Mm-hmm.
So what have you seen with that from a recruiting standpoint?
There are some pretty wild things there. Again, I sound like I'm what is it? Like a Debbie Downer in some cases, right? It's part of my job is to see the technology landscape. So we talk to about 300 different HR technology companies a year across our research, our awards program, everything else. And we did a deep look at all the automated AI recruiting tools over the last year. For many of them, the new class of that is you are either on a Zoom meeting or you get a phone call and you have this conversation with a very realistic sounding bot. It's gathering those things on you that it can then turn around to a profile that gives the employer. Think about this, a couple different benefits to that. If you are an electrician, if you are someone who is doing work in the oil fields, like some of those sort of manual types of work, you may not have a resume at all. And so getting that context, that conversation with you to understand your history and your work, that is creating your resume live on the spot. That's a great use case and a great example of that. but we're not seeing it used as much in some other types of more professional roles because it does feel a little bit inhuman, impersonal for that in roles where you may want to understand or gauge the personality of the person a little bit, or understand if they're going to be able to work within your core values as an organization. So those things are being used right now. There's a the wide spectrum of acceptance from candidates. If you go and spend 5 minutes on Reddit, you can find a lot of threads about how people feel about those to the negative. That said, we see in our data where candidates say, you know what, it is nice to at least be able to put my best foot forward and to be able to share that. Some of the data that we need to update from a few years ago, we found that when candidates get a chance, even if it's a one-way video interview or something like this, where it's a conversation, even if they don't get picked, if they have a chance to be fairly considered for their strengths, they are happier with that process than one where they just throw their resume out into the black hole and don't hear anything else. Yeah. The thing that we have to be careful of is, for employers out there listening to me, there's very little marginal additional cost for you to ask a candidate to spend 30 minutes on the phone going through the screening process. In the past, when you had a recruiter doing it, hey, 10 minutes in and out, get some basic details, figure out if you're moving forward. With the AI doing it, why not just ask them for 30 minutes of their time? And that's if you're not hiring 99% of those people, you're only hiring 1% of them. It's not really fair to ask that much of candidates to do that. So that's one thing I'm advising employers on, is to be careful with what they're asking for, because that person can't get that time back. And it's not like they can repurpose that for another interview later in the day. It's just gone forever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I feel like people that are in HR have a good probability of having a job in the future. I just think their job's going to change.
Oh, yes.
Just like everybody's. So my kids obviously are not to the point of being in the workforce. They're teenagers. So it's like trying to figure out what to tell them, like what industries to get into, what jobs are going to be around. And I think a lot of jobs haven't been created. A lot of the data I've seen, jobs available in 2030 haven't been created yet. Right? Like, so trending outward, if someone, let's say, has a teenager or a high school.
I do.
Okay.
Yep.
So
my twins are 15 years old.
Okay. So are you giving them any advice on, like, hey, you should think about doing this, engineering or something, trades? I don't know.
Yes. So I would look at some of the data we've seen over the last few years as a sort of cautionary tale that all of the promotion over the last decade, maybe 2 decades, David, that was like, learn how to code, maybe not as big of a focus on that in the future. Okay. So software engineering, we'll need some of those people, but that's going to change a lot. One of the roles that we're seeing a lot of companies hire for right now, at like large companies, even some mid-sized companies, is around storytelling. How do we take all the stuff we know and make it relevant and useful? Yeah. And that's a job that requires someone with some experience, I would argue, right? You need to have some life experience to know those things. So for the young people, my kids, please say prayers and send good thoughts my way. Both of those kids are thinking about medical school, which terrifies me greatly, but they're thinking about medical school because that field is going to remain human. We actually have a population that is aging pretty dramatically. So that sort of thing, there's going to be a higher demand for that in the coming years. And we see that in other areas of the world. I've already sort of forecasted that. So that's coming. So anything, you got someone who wants to be a nurse, great. They're going to need them desperately. There's been a shortage of nurses for as long as I've been in the workplace, and probably before that. So that sort of thing is definitely going to be an opportunity. Data visualization, telling stories, being able to use the information we have to actually communicate that and not just assume people always translate, understand it. That's a big part of some of the research we're actually doing this year. Is I want to create a Rosetta Stone for when our CEO says this, they mean that in HR speak, or when our CFO says this, they mean that from an HR perspective. And so we're trying to do more of that sort of translating ourselves in the research, but those sorts of opportunities are going to be there. One of the big ways to think about this is over the last 18 to 24 months, we have seen a rise in standing jobs and a decline in sitting jobs. So jobs where you sit, those jobs have sort of stagnated, flattened out, and jobs where someone's standing to do the work, whether it's home health, it's some of the other medical things, it's other areas in healthcare and manufacturing, things like that. Those things have generally been on the upswing.
Interesting take. I like that. So I should stand up more and make sure I
Yes.
keep it
Stand
up.
desks for all.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so where do you see leaders unintentionally outsourcing leadership to technology?
Can I tell you that the very first time I started hearing about the opportunity for managers to use AI tools for generating goals, crafting feedback, like those sorts of things, that worried me. That worried me because I could picture in my head some of the managers at the companies I worked at in the past that I always knew I'd be coaching them through. Hey, you wrote this thing down. That's not really good feedback. They can't use that for anything. It's just like, hey, you didn't do great. Okay, well, what do I do next? How do I improve this? So we have to be more useful with our feedback. So I saw those people that would just take whatever output they got and just go with it. But I'm actually seeing some of these companies that are producing these tools that say, you can't just copy and paste. You've got to change it. You've got to add some of your own words to it. You got to add some of your own flavor to it, because if you just copy and paste, it will not allow you to submit and push that through. So we're seeing some managers do things like that. It can help, especially for those that are not good at it. It can help with that. But the challenge with it is that the human brain is wired to be lazy, period. It is wired to conserve energy. It is wired to not pay attention to things it deems disinteresting. And if you don't believe that, I would love for you to tell me to the exact second how long it took you to tie your shoes this morning, because most of us don't know to the exact second. We can't tell you that because our brains don't care. And I'm worried that some of these things that are easily done by these tools are going to become autopilot to the degree that they just don't even pay attention to it anymore. And on the employee side and the receiving side, that feedback really matters. That feedback has a dramatic impact on someone's performance, on their likelihood to stay at the company, on their interest in progressing at the organization. There's so much tied into that I want to make sure leaders are not just letting the tools do that for them.
Yeah.
On the hiring front, the same sort of thing is potentially happening. There's some real risk about people that just take whatever the AI tells them and go with it. There was some research that was done by Stanford a year or two ago, and this really interesting experiment where they gave recruiters two different kinds of AI. A strong AI, they defined it, supposed to be very smart, very capable. The other one's got a weak AI. It's just a little helper. It's automation, but it's not smart. And the group that had the strong AI, after a little while, there's like, hey, looks good, go with it. And they just let it make decisions, and it was picking bad candidates, and they just let it go because they had just let their hands off the wheel. The other group was like, we always have to be making decisions in tandem with this because it's not smart enough. And so they kept their hands on the wheel and never let it go. I think that degree of attention and diligence is going to be the differentiator for companies that win long-term and those that don't. David, you mentioned a minute ago, like, we are hiring people. You saw the story probably in the last year where the big company said, hey, Klarna said, we're going to get rid of all of our humans and support. We just need AI to do that. And then a year later, they're like, kind of quietly, yeah, we actually needed people to do that. We're hiring them back. You know anybody that's looking? So they tried to go too far. They cut too deeply, and it hurt them in terms of how their customers felt. And I feel like companies are going to do the same sorts of things. And the risks that you can create on the HR side are pretty significant.
Yeah, I think every company has to visualize and understand who their target market is, their customer base, what those customers value, and if your customers value people and resources and using technology, you've got to have that good blend.
Yes.
And same with hiring, same with the employee engagement and the training development of your staff. Showing empathy to humans that work with you. Like, I don't see a lot of companies that are all done automated by robots yet. I mean, there's going to be more and more, but you still have to have somebody doing something in a company. Like, that's still out there. Like, it's not gonna go away.
Do you know that they actually tried this last year? This group put together a group of the different AI tools, ChatGPT and Copilot and the others, to try to run a company and to see what would happen. And they let it go, and they came back and said, okay, let's see how much progress you made. it was laughable. Like the worst tools were able to do like 1% of the tasks they gave them. They get hung up in things like, hey, David, go send an email to Michelle. Well, the bot would be like, Michelle, I don't know Michelle. Her name just must be Michelle Brown. I don't know. I'll just make up Michelle Brown and just try to send an email. And it's not even a real person. Or like little things like that are so simple. Yeah. And they just got hung up on all the little basic stuff that even an intern could take care of today. So letting AI just run amok and do its own thing, probably not a fear, not a reality in that sort of world. What we have to look for and we do expect to see is some very narrowly defined parts of the work we do. Like for when I spent probably 3 weeks. The first time we hired someone in Saudi Arabia, I spent 3 weeks of time on and off looking at all the research, trying to understand what the requirements were, speaking to an attorney, trying to make sure I knew what we were getting into and committing to as an employer. And I remember reading about, hey, by the way, if your employee hits someone in an accident on their way to work, there's this blood debt thing that you owe their family. I'm like, oh my, I wasn't sleeping at night at that time. It was terrifying me. Today, there are tools built with the knowledge bases of those types of things where you can get the answer in 10 seconds to that kind of thing without spending 3 weeks like I did. That was not a good use of my time. I could have spent it caring for our people and taking care of them and learning their names and knowing the things about them I needed to know instead of researching all these arcane laws that may apply or may come up in the context of this employment. So there are some good things there. I'll give you one more fun thing that I've been working on. You cool with that? Like this mad science here. Here we go. So we're talking about automation. The thing to me that we have to remember is automation is not, and efficiency is not the paramount thing. It's not the most important thing. It's helpful, it's good, but it's not the most important thing. You know how I know that? Because if I said, hey, listen, I could fill every job your company has open right now tomorrow with the first person I find, that would not be a good outcome. So speed is not the only thing that matters. With the tools that are available to HR leaders right now, speeding things up, being faster is good. But if you're just adding more to your plate and getting more stuff, you're going to burn out more quickly. HR burnout is off the charts, higher than ever. The thing that I want you to remember is this is about helping you realize your vision of what great looks like. So maybe that is, we've been meaning to do a leadership development program. Let's really emphasize that. Or we've been talking about our employer brand for a while. Let's take some time to really iron out what that means. What does it feel like to work here? Let's interview some employees. Let's use that to really convey what it's like to be here and communicate our values publicly in a way that's appealing to the candidates out there. Like those someday tasks, that's where our joy usually comes from. And so many HR leaders are just like, no, I can send one more email. I can create one more policy. I can draft one more job description. And none of those have any meaning to them, really. It's about the other parts of that really matter. And that's what I would encourage you when hearing me today. I've talked about all these different wild things, but that's the part that you have to use this for that purpose, because that's a truly noble outcome that's going to give you more joy, and you're going to be a better support to your business and to the people that you're caring for.
Absolutely. We work with a lot of small to mid-sized businesses, and we lean in on the communities, the Chamber of Commerce, the people that help those businesses thrive in the region that we're in. And a lot of those people are wearing multiple hats. They're the owner, they're dealing with payroll, they're dealing with hiring people, they're dealing with this and that. So, we see that a lot, and we see that as like, they are going to work with people that they trust. Right?
Yes.
And technology, you only trust to some degree, and the human connection, and with HR using AI and that human connection employees crave, it's like, you got to have the right mix of that, because let's face it, everyone wants to go to work, do good, and be told they did a good job, right? Like, that is so important, right? Going to work and hearing from your boss, thank you for doing great on this project. It's such a morale booster. It doesn't cost much money for someone to say thank you. So you hearing that from a automated system, or seeing your boss, Ben, and saying, hey, great job on that project, it goes a long way for people, and that's what they crave. So it's super important. We are live. If you are watching and have any questions for Ben, I've got a few more on my end, but Nicole had a great comment. We bring significant confirmation bias into how we use AI. often over indexing on trust in autopilot outputs instead of treating AI as a tool and validating results before acting on them.
The very first time I used an AI tool that hallucinated, I will never forget it. I was working on a presentation and I was looking for an example of AI being used in pay equity purposes. How did a company use this to try to help them identify, understand, and remedy whatever pay equity issues they had? And they said, well, obviously you should cite the Starbucks case study. I don't know that one. That's awesome. I can't wait to, tell me more about that. Oh, I'm sorry. There's not actually a Starbucks case study. I just, thought there should be. And I was this close to I was one step away from grabbing that and putting into a presentation and using that to talk about this, using that as part of a big piece of research to understand and convey what's going on there around pay transparency and trust and all the other things. And I was like, oh my goodness, that could have been such an easy step, just like all the stories you hear about the attorney, like citing case law that, didn't actually exist. The same thing almost happened. And I'll never forget that. So Nicole, to the point on the trust in the autopilot sort of thing. Yeah, we have to be very, very careful. There's a company I ran across recently. A friend was telling me about their leadership team was using AI to do calibration. So they'd done performance reviews and now they're like, let's make sure we got all the right people picked for succession planning. And they used an AI tool and like, no, we're doing human in the loop. That's what they told me. But what they did is they let the AI go through all their employees, pick the top 10, and then they're going to look at those top 10. And I said, that's not human in the loop. That's human after the loop. You've already let the AI do your short list. You don't know who it cut out. Did it cut out every woman in the business and you've got a group of 10 men? We don't know. And so you've got to have the humans alongside of that. And there's so much opportunity there.
Yeah.
The thing that I've been really harping on lately, David, is we talk about all these AI things like they're known and they're ironed out and they're fully baked. And many of us don't even have a full understanding of how people interact at work, what drives the right behaviors. You mentioned a minute ago, like that, you said, hey, listen, it's not expensive. It's free, right? Basically free to spend 5 seconds saying, hey, David, I saw that project that the other day that you turned in. That was killer, man. I just love your attention to detail. Thank you so much. That was free to do that. But we still don't fully understand and appreciate the interpersonal dynamics and all those things. And we're moving on to this other stuff and we're skipping over what potentially could create the most value for us to go after this shiny object of AI.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just a small sliver of recognition from a program standpoint. And you can have a basic recognition program and not spend a lot of money. Yeah. There's systems and tools out there. You can integrate it. You can manage it. It's just like anything else. You got to maintain it and you got to keep momentum with your team so that it doesn't fall flat after 2 months of program. So however you can, as an HR professional, or management play into that program of the team, you're going to have better morale, you're going to have better retention, and it's just going to be a great cycle. And so, that's, I think, what a lot of companies want is they want to hire the good people that are out there and they want to retain them. And how do you do that? It's different for everybody, but technology can only go so far in AI. So before implementing AI, what fundamental people issues should leaders address first?
I have a great friend, Maria Scott. I should get you two connected because she would make a great episode around this manager piece that you sound like you're already kind of excited about. So she was a manager enablement leader for a large enterprise company. She told me, listen, I've coached thousands of managers, literally thousands of managers in her time, her career. And she said, I'm convinced the number one thing companies do wrong when it comes to that creates so much problem is we don't stop and just tell managers, here's what good looks like here. Here's what we expect of you here at our company. And when I heard her say that, I thought back to the very first time I sat in a supervisor training, my first HR job I ever was in. The supervisor training was, I kid you not, 4 days of them rolling in the video carts, putting in the VHS. Somebody forgot to rewind the VHS, hit play. And here's 4 days, 2 hours a day each of don't do this, don't do that, or bad things happen. And they never once said, and here's what you should aspire to. Here's what good looks like. It's just, here's bad stuff. Don't do that stuff. And so in this context, companies have to be really clear. You said it earlier, like have SOPs, things like that. I would completely agree with that, but just be clear about what good looks like at your organization. Because right now, if you're not saying it, there are 10 different perspectives on that, or 100 different perspectives on that, depending on how many people you have at your company. Every person has a different picture of what good looks like because no one has codified that and made it clear for them. Yeah. So I think that's a big one. We went back to earlier, I talked about like some of the nuts and bolts things like, hey, listen, if you're using an AI tool and it's trained on your data and your data is junk, then the recommendations are going to be junk too. So be careful with that one. And then the other one, going back to that example I gave around the candidate and how they felt about the different wording that you could use to let them use AI to screen them or not. People want to know that they're protected. They want to know their psychological safety there. They want to know that you are concerned about their well-being. This isn't just, hey, AI is doing all the deciding about stuff. Good luck to you. Hopefully you make it through. No, that's not probably the best way to do it. And it's not probably that overt at companies right now, how they're talking about it, but some of that stuff is happening behind the scenes. So those are some of the big things. Really get clear on what good looks like. I'd say was the number one low-hanging fruit.
Using AI for selection gives me heartburn, Nicole says. Data, yes. Critical thinking and problem solving, no. Judgment, definitely not.
Yes.
Yeah. Very well
I don't
said.
need AI to tell me that's a good comment, Nicole.
That's right. All right, Ben, last question. So if AI won't fix people problems, what actually will, and what mindset shift should leaders need to make now?
Number one, realize that AI will not do some things. It will not build trust. It will not mentor people. It will not replace that relationship that manager has with them. It will not take ownership for a problem. Right? I remember the times where I had to sit down across an employee and say, hey, listen, this is going on. And I hate to have to break the news to you, but here's the truth of it. And to lay it out there, right? That's really hard to do. AI can't do those things. That's number one. Know what it can't do because we can't trust it to do some of those things that it's not built for. The other part is, through this, I've sort of touched on it a couple of times, close to it. Human creativity is the greatest value producer that there is on the planet. All the automation in the world does not create as much value as humans turning their minds to a big problem and trying to solve it. So if you are hearing this and you're thinking, what can we do as a population? What can David and I do for our kids to make sure they're prepared for what's next? What the research shows us over the last couple hundred years, every time automation happens, if it's mechanical automation, if it's digital automation, if this new AI wave, when that stuff passes by, it strips away a bunch of repetitive tasks and it leaves behind something that it can't automate. And those are the things that are natural human traits that all of our kids have, but some of us let go of as we get older, like curiosity. When was the last time you stopped and just asked a question that you didn't know the answer to and you may never find the answer to? Okay. I have kids that range from age 4 to age 15. I hear that 87 times a day. Okay. So being curious is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Being creative, being willing to push the boundaries, being willing to try something new. Compassion and caring for others. I'm got kind of sick of this like weird time where it's like, well, you can't say you're an HR because you like people because you have to be a business person. I'm like, listen, the best HR people care about the people and the business. It's not one or the other, it's and. Like the best teachers care about the students. They don't just know great teaching methods. They care about the kids. So compassion, creativity, curiosity, being able to collaborate, work together, being able to dream up something new with somebody else. Those are the things that AI cannot do. It can replicate those. It can approximate those. It can say, oh, wow, David, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope things are well with you. It doesn't care. It doesn't feel. Not the way that I would if I heard you had some tough news, right? Or vice versa. And so I think those are the things that the data tell us are important to build in ourselves and to build in our workforces and to build in our kids. If we want any of us to be resilient in a world where AI is being relied on for more and more.
Yeah. Very well said. All right. Well, before we get off, HR summer school is coming up and kids are coming off school. HR is going into school. Yes. So tell us about this, Ben.
Yeah. So HR Summer School started my trifecta here, hat trick, during the pandemic.
How about
I was traveling to California. I landed, turned my phone on, and the voicemail set was from the event organizer that I was going to speak there. They said, "Hey, California's closed. Go home." I was like, "Okay." So I have 4 weeks now on my schedule. I was going to be traveling and speaking that are now all open. I may never have this again. What can I do that's going to help? Because everybody's worried, everyone's scared. So I put together this event called HR Summer School just to be positive and helpful. And it took off like I never would have imagined. Thousands of people signed up. And every year since then, we've done this event. It's gotten bigger every single year. Thousands of people helped by this. And it is entirely free. So hrsummerschool.org, you can scan that QR code there. It's a 3-day event. And we break all the rules for like a webinar for this thing. But it's really just part pep rally, part training session, and part let's get together and celebrate the impact we're having as a community, because that's what really matters at the end of the day.
Definitely. I would strongly suggest looking at that if you can make this. So HR Summer School coming in June. It's going to be here before you know it, and the weather will be a lot nicer than it is right now. So, well, Ben, this has been great. I really appreciate your time. Hopefully everybody listening learned a little bit from Ben as much as I did. So, Ben, best of luck on everything you're doing, and hopefully we'll stay connected. And yeah, if you have any other future guests recommendations, send them my way, because that's what's happened to a lot of my guests. I've
Absolutely
connected to them through somebody that's been on, and they feel like they have a good future guest. So same with your podcast too. I'm sure you look for people to come on to your podcast. We're Only Human is the podcast. So take a look at all of the podcasts on Work Defined. There's plenty. I think there's over 70 now at workdefined.com, including SpeakEasy HR and We're Only Human. So Ben, thanks again. This has been awesome.
Thank you so much, David. Appreciate the chance to share, to encourage, and to lift up our friends out there in the HR community.
Yeah. And so take a look at Ben. If you're not following him on LinkedIn, I would strongly suggest. And next Monday, we're still talking AI. It's going to be more about the recruiting tools and everything out there as you are job seeking for those who are looking for a new job in 2026. So take a look at that. You'll find that on LinkedIn under my personal account. So Ben, take care, bud. And thanks everyone for watching. And we'll be back next Monday. See you later.